Hi, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of The Pod With, the podcast where artists discuss their expertise in different areas, either in the music industry or causes they are passionate about. My guest today is Tobi Duncan, singer of Trash Boat. The British outfit recently released a new album titled Don't You Feel Amazing? And the shift in music direction was also followed by a change, or more precisely, a transition in the lyric subjects. Tobi's approach this time is more straightforward, more blunt, as he touches on various issues and conveys important messages, and as someone put it, bringing a kind of empowerment into the conversation. Recently, Trashbot fell victims of censorship while performing at the Heavy Music Awards, with Twitch shutting down the stream for violation of the terms of use. Witty and well-spoken, Tobi discusses the incident, LGBTQ representation and visibility in the music industry, and the expression of identity through art. Enjoy. So again, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
I would like to start from the very beginning and how you got involved with music in the first place. I think you mentioned that growing up you were an athlete.
I was. That's what I wanted to do. My whole life, I was a very sporty guy. I used to play a lot of contact sports. I used to kickbox. I used to do jiu-jitsu. I played rugby, but I also played like table tennis, squash with my brother. I used to play sport every day until I busted my knee and couldn't really pursue sport in any meaningful way anymore. But I always had music as something that I also enjoyed, and that was, something that came relatively easily to me. So I just put all my energy into that.
That's amazing. And how did you come to join Trash Boat?
I've been in bands. Well, I've been trying to be in a band since I was kind of 16, but only in any meaningful way from about 18 onwards. And then one of the bands I was in posted a cover, I think, of a Major League song, maybe a Real Friends song, I can't remember. But I was working just like a customer support job at the time. And the band that Ryan and Dan and all those guys used to be in were breaking up, and he messaged me on Facebook and just said, "Hey, we're breaking up. We're going to start a new band. We need a singer. Do you want to join?" I was like, "Sure." And it's as simple as that. We went and had a practice, and I realized that these guys were really dedicated and talented, and they were willing to invest time into this as a project, and I wanted to as well. And then boom, Trash Boat was born.
And you guys recently released your recent album, Don't You Feel Amazing? And you were invited to play at the Heavy Music Awards, where for people who may not know, when your guest Milky from Gorgasm joined you on stage, she had a nip slip and Twitch shut the stream. Sure. I'm guessing that you didn't know what was happening when it happened, but what was your first reaction when they told you?
I can't think of the word for it. Indifference. We didn't plan it. I mean, we both just wore outfits. Hers covered her nipples, mine didn't. And then we were told afterwards that the stream had been shut down, and I guess that I found that pretty funny. It's one of those things that I don't even want to really give weight to the conversation, because I think it shouldn't be a conversation. It just seems absolutely insane to me that people want to talk about it and feel so divisive about it. It's very, very strange. And, people kind of try and hide behind different ways of deflecting their inability to control their feelings whenever they see a female nipple only for some reason. And they'll always say, "Oh, God, think of all the children. What about the children?" They always use children. It's really always like, "Oh, the terms of service are there for a reason. They're there to protect people that are vulnerable and protect children." And it's just like, that's such a weird argument for nipples in particular, but also it's an age-old argument. It's like, don't let gay people teach. Otherwise, think of the children. What happens to the children? Or don't let women vote. If women are allowed to vote, then they'll leave the house and who'll look after the children? Don't let children see nipples. God forbid. But it's just like, it's a cop out for people that aren't in control of their own emotions and aren't in control of their own actions and feel embarrassed about either the fact that they get so excited when they see nipples that they can't control themselves, or they have never seen a nipple in their lives, and will always hide behind some other scapegoat to deflect responsibility away from themselves. And the children argument is ridiculous because I can't think of a single child that would look at a nipple and sexualize it. So it's mystifying to me that it's even a conversation, and it's actually quite irritating that it happened, or that the terms of service specify this. But I mean, great clout for me.
Were you surprised that the organizers stood behind you?
Did they? I didn't really look into I think I posted one video, and no, that wasn't like sarcastic. I haven't really given much thought to the situation. I posted one video to my Instagram and to Twitter just to basically clear up the situation and tell everyone that I wasn't sorry that it happened. Like, everyone kind of thought it was an apology video. It wasn't. It was me just being like, I'm not sorry about anything. I think it's ridiculous that this even happened. Yeah, fair enough. If they stood behind the message, then cool. At the end of the day, it's all just clout chasing. It's all just divisive bullshit to garner attention in certain areas. And I don't really want attention on this topic, really, because for me, it's something that just needs to be absorbed into the status quo and just become completely normalized. And it's other people that have these reactions. It's like when people ask me about my sexuality, it's like, I don't care. I don't care about my sexuality. But the reason why people ask me these questions is because they know that there are other people out in the world who feel really strongly the one way or the other and will click the article when they read these certain buzzwords. So they're not really asking these questions for me or, for the normal, wider, normalized public. They're asking it because they know that a lot of stupid, crazy people will click on a divisive article when they see it. So like when people ask, it's like, I'll answer these questions because I'm not going to lie, like I'll be honest. But at the same time, it's just like, why are you asking? What do you want to know? Do you want to know anything like personal or functional, or do you just want to create a divisive headline that people will click to generate like traffic to your website?
Yeah. So to return to this form of censorship on various platforms, do you think that this is a form of neo-puritanism, or that the platforms are afraid they're going to lose their investors or ads if they allow the naked human body to be seen, when at the same time some of them are helping people promote hate speech or even call to genocide?
I mean, God, that is a really interesting question. And like I think having a rule against something, having something that can create such a myriad of like topics of conversation and something that can drive engagement on social media. If they just allowed people to be naked or do whatever they want, then there would be no clout to be gained. It's a numbers game. It's a money game. So, and over the course of history, people have been exercising control over other people's right to do whatever they want with their human body. And now it's empirical. It can be quantified and it can be monetized. So yeah, there would be many suffixes that I would put neo beforehand that these kinds of rules of censorship would that I would put before. But yeah, I don't. It's very strange to me. I'm a very easygoing guy. I was raised right. I can differentiate between people that are, sexualizing themselves and people that are just naked. And I think that the people that are in control don't really trust the general public to make that distinction, which I, in a way, kind of understand, because a lot of people are very, very unhinged. But I feel like exercising that control is only going to make things worse in the long run. And yeah, like me and Milky, we weren't sexualizing each other on stage. It's not like she came on to do her bit and I grabbed her breast and started, doing sexualized things. That's not what happened. We just performed. We just happened to perform both, showing the top halves of our bodies, or most of the top half of our bodies. And it's just like, then they wouldn't work hard enough to make the terms of service specific enough to, even differentiate between male and female nipples. It's just like, okay, but then there'll probably not be enough content in that terms of service to differentiate between sexualization and non-sexualization. It's a very lazy approach.
Going back to Trash Mode, as I mentioned, you guys just released Don't You Feel Amazing, where you touch on various issues. Was this approach on lyrical subjects intentional or instinctive? And why now?
It's instinctive, 100% instinctive. I didn't really put any thought into what I was going to write, any premeditated thought into what I was going to write about, because I put so much premeditated thought into our first two albums. And I absolutely shot from the hip with this album and just wrote whatever came to my gut at the given time. A lot of these songs were written in the studio, and a lot of them were written in a matter of hours. And lyrically, I didn't want to be too cryptic. I didn't want to be, too trying to sound clever. And I wrote from the heart, and I wrote from just the top of my head. And as long as it sounded good and it felt good for me to perform, then I was happy.
But we know that when artists touch on social or political issues, it's not unusual to see fans reacting defensively and tell them to stick to music. But did you ever fear that a song like He's So Good could backfire?
No, I've been waiting patiently for it to backfire in some way. Like, where are all these people always ask me these questions? They're like, oh, it must be so hard. It must be so hard to write a song about sexuality, or it must be so hard to do this. It's like, you must face something. It's like, I'm waiting for this prejudice. I'm a confrontational person, and I would love to have an argument with some idiot who wants to have any kind of differing opinion to me. I love arguing. I love debating, and it has never ever happened to me. I've never been confronted. I've never been challenged on this, and I'm waiting very patiently but that's the thing. I'm a confident guy, and I think maybe people can kind of read that energy, and they'll only really attack people in that way if they feel like they can win, or if they feel like they can dominate the situation. And I just think it is highly unlikely that any of these people who would consider sexuality or the deviation from the status quo of like heteronormative sexual relationships, I think anyone that came into any kind of debate with me about that would just be humbled and destroyed, because I'm so supremely confident in my ability to just completely nullify any opinion to the contrary. That, there's a broad spectrum of sexualities, there's a broad spectrum of gender identities, and each person is within their own rights to do and feel and love however they choose, however comes naturally to them. And any argument to the contrary just makes absolutely no sense to me and has no grounding in reality or rationality or logic. So I'm waiting for the day. It's never happened though.
I think your confrontational aspect is very obvious, especially on stage. I happened to be at Slam Dunk when you had your J'accuse moment.
Sure.
Quite rightly, if you ask me. And I was indeed waiting for someone to, I don't know, yell back or boo, for something to happen. I'm glad that nothing happened, to be honest, but, the drama could be fun, I guess.
Like I said, I in a weird way, I want it to happen, because I think it would be a very one-sided debate, and I think it would just be me talking for an extended period of time. And I obviously love the sound of my own voice. So, bring them on. Bring on the hyper-religious people. Bring on the people that were abused by gay people when they were younger, and therefore have like just a hatred for anyone that deviates from the heteronormative like framework. Like, all of these people, whilst I'm not going to invalidate their experiences, I will invalidate their conclusions.
Again, you're very open about your sexuality. Is the music industry in general, and your genre in particular, open to a person's fluidity, gender identity, and expression?
Can't speak for anyone else except myself, really. I'm sure there are deep, dark corners of the music industry that wouldn't be accepting or would exploit that area. There's people at the top who I'm sure, when they sign a band who has an LGBT member, they're just thinking, this is fucking money. Like, I'm gonna exploit this as much as possible. Not necessarily in an entirely bad way. I mean, whatever makes money is objectively good in a lot of people's opinions. So when a homosexual or a bisexual or transgender singer or whatever comes into the scene, there will be a lot of people thinking, how can we make as much money as possible out of this? That's so completely not my goal or agenda or angle. I don't want to monetize my sexuality in any way. For me, it is the most benign aspect of my personality. Or because I would have a lot of things to say to people who are very religious, or people who would, talk about only sex for procreation. And some people would say that if you're having recreational sex in any form, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual or whatever, that is bad. That it's akin to like a drug addiction. And I'd have a lot to say about that. But I mean, on the other side of the coin, I think there is a problem, a smaller problem, but a problem nonetheless, with people who treat things like their sexual or their gender identity as the majorative chunk of their identity. I see this a lot with my LGBTQ brothers and sisters and everything in between, where their gender identity is all of them. It's so much of them that if that part of them isn't validated by every single person that they meet, then they feel attacked at a fundamental level, and it generates trauma. And it's like, you can't make this part of you the biggest part of you and then immediately expect everyone around you to validate you in the way that you desire. And if it doesn't happen, then it's an attack on yourself, and it's something worthy of punishment for the other person. This is a really, really big thing that I think people on the left side of the political spectrum are failing at the moment. Because, if we take gender as an example, male, female, that's how it's been, right? Now we've got everything in between. And I think the first step is getting people to understand the they, them pronouns, which is like, okay, well, we can get there. But the everything in between is a potentially infinite series, right? People are making up different pronouns to describe themselves every day. That's fine. I love that. Identify in whatever way that you want, live your truth. But if you're going to take a binary status quo that has existed for thousands of years and then expect these conservative people, these people that don't want to identify in that way, or they don't think it's important for them, if you're going to all of a sudden say, I've invented a brand new pronoun that's specific to me, and if you don't use it, then that is a personal and traumatic attack to my being, and you should be punished for it. And it's like, pick your battles, man. What are you talking about? This is a really, really strange thing to get this irate about when there are so many more fundamental and structural political issues associated with gender and sex. So whilst I'm happy to berate conservative or Republican or whatever people on the right who are trying to kind of shut down this gender expression movement because they think it's, too fairy dust or too like conceptual or whatever, I would happily sit in front of them and explain to them why they're incorrect. But on the other side of that coin, it's like, I really do feel like a lot of the people on what I would consider more my side also need to consider their position and consider their necessity for validation from other people. This is the crux. I don't need validation from anyone. I've never fronted my sexuality to anyone on the planet because I don't need anyone to confirm that for me. I don't need anyone to tell me whether it's okay or not. I didn't need my parents to tell me whether it's okay or not. I didn't need my friends to tell me whether it's okay or not. I just did it. And I don't need to talk about it. If people ask me questions about it, I'll answer. But at the same time, it's like, it's just a thing. And I think everyone needs to treat their own version of expression and their own version of identity in the exact same way, because you'll save yourself a lot of stress.
I love this answer. I really do, because you partly answer other things that I wanted to ask. And also, you answered part of the next question, which was, how do you see the normalization of sexuality in the aspect that everyone is assigned a box, which on one hand can be inclusive and give you a sense of belonging, but on the other hand, it can be used for marketing or even political reasons.
Yeah, I mean, look, people getting assigned a box it's useful. There are use cases to keeping things simple. Like if you're if you really think you exist right in the middle of the gender spectrum, and you have a different pronoun for every day of the week, and you are completely androgynous and blah blah blah, it's still useful if you have a medical issue to be able to say, well, I'm a man or I'm a woman, I was born this way, because it's like pick your battles. You know what I mean? Like, why? It's what function beyond your identity and your expression are you serving if you're going to go down this road of like really complex and intricate gender identity? Like, it's okay to be assigned a certain gender at birth. It's okay to simplify things occasionally when it comes to gender or sex, because it serves certain uses, but it's also okay to identify in whatever methods that you choose. Like these are all things. And like, normalizing, I mean, like, what are we normalizing here? Like, it's not normal. It's not normal to be, a Z, Zim, Zir, or some sort of neo pronoun. That's not normal. That's okay. I don't want to normalize that, because what does normalizing mean? Normalizing means everyone does it, and not everyone has to or should do it. So there's no need to normalize it. Just do whatever the hell you want. Just don't do it because you demand validation. Don't do it because if you, and don't do it and expect that validation to the extent that if you don't get it, it's going to like ruin your life, and you need to force everyone around you and like exercise a degree of control around the people around you so that you get that validation that you've never had. It's like, be your own validation, because expecting it from everyone else is just only going to lead to heartbreak. So yeah, I don't know if normalizing it is the way I would put it, because it's not normal, but it's fine for it to be not normal. I mean, like, I'm not normal. I mean, I feel the same way about intimate contact with men as I do with women. That's not normal, and that's okay. Like, I'm not trying to force everyone out there to be comfortable sharing their intimacy across the gender spectrum. Like, I don't want to normalize that. Like, what does that even entail? Via legislation? Like, you know what? Just do whatever the hell you want.
Awesome. I really love that. Now, how and to what degree has the openness with your identity and self-realization helped the expression through your art and the way that you experience it?
Yeah, I mean, it made the songwriting a lot easier. I mean, I was always expressing very similar things in my music, but I was just trying very hard to be very cryptic and very intelligent and write in a way that flowed really beautifully, and that, so people would think I was really intelligent. And I wrote about the same things or similar things, but I just didn't mess around. I was just very upfront and very blunt, because this is our third album, and I was bored of keeping certain things hidden behind all these weird metaphors. So I just wanted to be very upfront about them, and hasn't really changed much. I mean, I get a lot more direct questions, which I prefer. Like, I really like these questions that you're asking, and I think this is a really good conversation that we're having, because I hate it when people are like, well, if you could be in Slipknot, what would your mask look like? It's like, oh, God. So I like this line of questioning, and I like it being more like a conversation rather than a set of questions. And me being just blunt, basically, has obviously ruffled a few people's feathers and has caused people to want to ask me very blunt questions, which is what I prefer.
Moving on, you have mentioned before that you come from a very supportive family. Have there ever been moments where you took this quote unquote privilege for granted?
I think if I said no, that would be very arrogant of me, but I don't have any memories that would indicate the answer could be yes. I don't know what taking it for granted would look like. What does take, like, how can you possibly take a support network like that? I mean, I don't know the answers to that question. So no, the answer really is no, because I don't understand the framework of what that would look like. So yeah, no, I don't think so. That might be really, really arrogant of me, but it was never a conversation. There's so many gay people in my family. My uncle's gay, my cousin's gay, my brother's gay. I'm half gay. It's just a very normal thing. There was no chance for me to take advantage of it or to be ungrateful, because my coming out was like a by the way, and my mum was like, okay. So I guess there's a privilege in that I must recognize. Everything that I'm preaching and everything that I'm suggesting people practice is a lot harder if you don't have a supportive beginning and if you don't have a supportive family. I understand that. However, I don't think it changes the fact that I'm speaking the truth. Just because it's more difficult for you to obtain doesn't mean that it's still not the ideal setup and something we should all be working towards.
That is very true. How powerful are platforms like yours in making a difference in a young person's life?
Depends on the person. Depends on the person on the platform as well. I want to exercise a different kind of power. Like I see my power as mediating. I see my power as de-escalating. I don't want to piss anyone off. I don't want to start like these massive conversations or these massive movements because they're messy. I want things to be a lot calmer. I want things to be a lot smoother. And I just want the conversation to not be so divisive. And I don't want people to just plan interviews or stunts centered around my sexuality so that they can generate traffic to their website. I want everything to just kind of be normalized, if you want to use that term of phrase.
Quote unquote, again.
Quote, normalized.
What steps do we need to take individually and collectively in order to create more safe spaces in music?
Be your own safe space. I mean, there are no safe spaces in music. You can't reach into people's brains and change their desires to want to exploit certain situations. I mean, there's privileges that I have in that sphere because I'm a 6 foot, well-built, confident guy. So if some music exec dickhead came up and started trying to grab me and was like, hey, I'll, make you a millionaire if you do this, I'd just be like, fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? And it was like, I make my own safe space by just not tolerating anything like that. And that's more difficult for other people and for people of, less confrontational personalities. But in general, yeah, I think people just kind of need to make their own safe spaces and be as independent in that area as possible. Because I'm all for community and I'm all for doing things together. And we obviously can work together to create safe spaces in some ways. But I mean, once you get past all of the superficial platitudes, it really boils down to changing. And someone who has a mind for exploitation, it's about physically changing their mind. It's like, I don't know how to do that. If I knew how to do that, I'd be president. I'd be king. I think people exercising personal confidence and having their own sense of validation that comes from them will mean that these not so safe spaces affect them less in a mental way. And if people have the confidence to stand up for themselves in the moment, and it's like, I couldn't say something to that guy because it would have ruined my career. It's like, ruin your career. Say the thing to the guy and make the noise. That's the way to do it. You have to show the spaces aren't safe in the moment, because at the end of the day, what is a music career? It's a superficial thing, and against being the kind of person that would stand up for themselves in the moment. I couldn't, even if I had a really vibrant music career, I couldn't live with myself if I'd sacrificed my own volition in that moment. It would just always be there. And I'd rather the moment of me like ruining my music career by shouting at someone for doing something horrible be there for the rest of my life than getting lots of money and lots of fans and having someone violate me in that way and not doing anything about it.
I think you have very interesting opinions, and I'd love to pick your brain more at some point in the future. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to do it now, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to catch you guys again playing at some point, and maybe we.
Yeah, I mean, next time we come to Greece, I guess.
I mean, we need to make that happen.
I wouldn't say no. Wouldn't say no.
Final question. What is passion for you? How would you define it?
Question. I think passion derives from very base instincts and feelings that we all share as human. You can get passion from sex, you can get passion from music, you can get passion from succeeding in the workspace, and all of these things, all of these hyper successful things, no matter where they are, they generate neural responses in your brain and they release happy chemicals. So passion for me, wherever it is chasing the absolute purest and most maximal form of whatever experience I'm in. When it comes to music, I mean, I know how it feels to be in the crowd and to be waiting for that part in a song that I want to get up in the singer's face and climb on people's heads and just be sweating and grab the microphone and just exist in that moment of pure chaos. I know how good that feels. I know how strongly that makes me feel, how passionate that makes me feel, you could say. And now I want to provide that for other people. Now I want to be the guy on stage that's like puppet mastering the whole crowd into this frenzy, because I know how good it feels to be whipped up into that frenzy. And that translates to so many things, you know, like people work hard at their careers to be the best in sport so that they can elicit those same emotions, even if it's just for themselves, so they can say that they're best, or in sex or wherever it is. Like, it's getting to that moment where things are at their purest. And yeah, that's what passion is to me. It's that achievement. It's that achievement of maximal participation and feeling and energy, and your brain just going as crazy as it can with other people in the room who are on the same energy level as you are.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Do you have any final words, and for your fans in Greece in general?
I don't have any final words. My final words would just be thank you for any and all support. Thank you for sharing the Trash Boat journey with us. It's a rich tapestry, and it's subject to great change and great development. So buckle up for the ride.